Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2023 Rivian R1T Adventure. This is the first fully electric pickup truck that was available to the mass production market, and Rivian came on the scene back in 2022 and debuted this model, and it really made a splash in the EV market. Since Rivian is a brand new manufacturer, a lot of people didn't really know what to expect from this new electric company, but Rivian has obviously done very well for themselves. You can see the R1T all over the place right now, and they just debuted the R1S as well, which is their full-size SUV. Since this vehicle first debuted in the 2022 model year, there actually haven't been that many changes over the last 2 years, but because it's an electric vehicle, they're doing over-the-air updates. So they've actually done some really cool things, like add more drive modes over the air, which is a pretty cool thing that you can see with electric vehicles that you don't often get in ICE vehicles. So similarly to most EVs out there, the Rivian's price has changed a lot over the years. When this vehicle was bought though, it MSRP for about $73,000 for the Adventure trim, which is actually the only trim available. So all Rivians in 2023 are just called Adventure, but you can adjust a few different things like a battery pack. You can also adjust the drivetrain, of course, and then you can also adjust if you want the all-terrain wheels and things like that to make this a bit more off-road oriented. So this specific R1T here comes to an as-tested price of $87,000. This is because it has the quad motor package. All Rivians are all-wheel drive, but this one has one motor per wheel, which is pretty darn cool. Gives it 835 horsepower and 900 pound-feet of torque, which is really crazy for this giant truck. This goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. So the large battery pack here is about a $9,100 option, and it gives it 328 miles of range. It's a 135 kilowatt hour battery. There's actually a battery pack above that called the Max, which gives it 400 miles of range, and Rivian just came out with that one very recently. As you can imagine, this vehicle is very, very heavy, 7,000 pounds on this vehicle. So going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds is honestly a feat of engineering. Also, as you can imagine, this car doesn't get the greatest fuel economy. So you've got 74 city, 66 highway for combined 70 miles per gallon equivalent. Most EVs that are smaller, like sedans, would get closer to 100. So you can imagine this isn't the most efficient thing, but you do have some really great range on this car. One of my favorite parts of the R1T is going to be this gorgeous exterior. This color here is called LA Silver, since, you know, Rivian's from LA, and it actually is a no-cost option. This is the default option, and it looks pretty darn good, I think. This is a very pretty, like, bluish metallic silver, and I really like the looks of this. Obviously, the front fascia is very, very unique. You've got those cute little headlights. Honestly, I think it's the cutest front fascia in any vehicle out there, and that light bar is recognizable from pretty much anywhere. The Rivian has a very, very great light signature, and I feel like in the dark, it looks awesome. But yeah, like, I love how cohesive the design is of the Rivian and how there's those yellow outlines everywhere. That's like the company color, I guess. And you've got yellow brake calipers on the wheels. And actually what I discovered very recently is that the quad motor drivetrain actually gives it more yellow outlines than the non-quad motor. So those yellow brake calipers only come in the quad motor version to show you that you've got 800 horsepower. As expected from an EV, you do have a nice frunk, and this is actually a very large and deep frunk, 11 cubic feet of cargo space in the frunk, which is pretty awesome, and it is fully power operated, so it opens completely by itself, which is pretty neat. I actually have never seen that in another EV. Going into the side profile, you've got Rivian spelled out there with that yellow outline. I think it looks super cool. I don't really know how they even do that, but it looks really, really nice. The side profile looks pretty normal for a pickup truck, right? Again, you have a pretty small bed. You can kind of see it's shorter than most. It's 4.5 foot bed. Most beds are at least 5 foot or so. And the wheels here are gorgeous. You've got 21-inch wheels. I don't love the cover. I kind of hate how a lot of EVs do that arrow thing where they cover most of the actual wheel well. You can't really see the yellow brake calipers that well, right? I don't know. I really want to be able to see the brake calipers more, but it still looks pretty fine. You've got the Rivian logo in the middle. It's that like cool diamond thing with yellow stuff in it as well. I just love the yellow cohesive color throughout the entire vehicle, and I think it looks really good with that silver. That really contrasts a lot. But yeah, these are the 21-inch road tires. They don't really have a fancy name or anything like that, but you can get off-road oriented tires, or you can just use normal road tires. So these are 21-inch. These are the base ones. No cost option, pretty simple. Moving along, you do have flush door handles, pretty much expected from any electric vehicle manufacturer in this day and age. They do pop out, and I will note that these aren't my favorite door handles. I don't really love, like, they're not the best feeling, and they're kind of bulky, and I don't know, it's hard to use just one hand to open these. But the proximity keyless entry has worked really well. One thing I do want to note is that you have a key card to actually open the vehicle, which is pretty cool. You've got a few different options. You can actually set up the app on your phone, which I actually did do, and the app can work as your key, your phone can work as your key, which is pretty darn cool. cool. On the other hand, you do actually have a key card that you can use as well. Fits neatly into a wallet, and you can just kind of use a card to open up the vehicle as well. Unfortunately, you do have to take the card out and kind of tap it, which kind of defeats the point of proximity keyless entry in my opinion, but just a cool alternative, right? There's a lot of different ways to open up this vehicle. There is a standard traditional key fob that actually looks like a lock as well. So Rivian is doing a lot of really unique things. Going into the rear of the car, I think this part looks awesome as well, right? You've got that full light bar. So front and the back, you've got that full light bar. Looks very, very distinctive, especially at nighttime. You've got R1T with that yellow in the middle, and I think it just looks pretty good, right? You do have a lot of cool buttons too. Notice this button on the back actually opens the tailgate here, and this is also not power operated, but kind of like power assisted in a way. This kind of can open up and you can put a lot of stuff here. It feels very sturdy. You've got some nice stuff in the back here. You can see the Rivian word spelled out there. One interesting thing is, like, from a distance, you actually don't see the word Rivian that much, but when you actually get into the car, Rivian kind of put their nameplate all over this vehicle, and for good reason. In this 4.5-foot bed here, you do have about 22 cubic feet of cargo space, so it's a decent amount of space if you want to, haul anything. In general, the cargo capacity in this Rivian is really, really great. Especially for a pickup truck, you do have a lot of really neat storage areas. My favorite part of this vehicle is going to be called this gear tunnel here. You can easily open the gear tunnel with this button right here. It's not a power operated thing though, so you do kind of have to reach in there, but very easy to open up, very light, and you do have about 11 cubic feet of storage in there as well. So Rivian has just done such a great job making this vehicle very practical. And I mean, what's really cool is they actually sell some accessories where you can put like a tent in there and like all this other stuff that just kind of folds out neatly. And I mean, Rivian they do a really good job kind of blending that like way. It kind of feels like Apple, right? Where all of the Rivian products are meant to kind of go together and you want to buy Rivian everything. And I think it works really well for this electric vehicle. All right, let's go to the interior of the 2023 Rivian R1T. So you can see these are how the door handles pop out. Not the most attractive, but works fine. Going in, you immediately are greeted by a really nice looking cabin. Look at these gorgeous seats. I'm obsessed with these seats. I also love the yellow hues all over the cabin, but you can see the seat looks a little weird right now. And that's because it has the easy entry thing that a lot of other cars do, where when I actually put my foot on the brake, the seat moves forward. But for the purposes of this review, I'm actually going to move my seat all the way to the back so that we can see a bit more here. But yeah, you've got some really nice storage solutions in this vehicle. Very, very practical cabin, right? You can see you have some storage down here. You have two cup holders that pop out very interestingly. It actually is a pretty clean look. When you don't have drinks, you can kind of pop it back in and it looks good. You've got some storage here. This center console is difficult to figure out how to open, but it's a little thing right here actually that you press. This is I don't know what this is, but it's worked for me as a phone slot. So you can kind of tuck your phone right in here and it actually looks really good. One thing I do want to pay close attention to is going to be this awesome Rivian logo. It's all throughout the cabin. Very, very cool touch there. I love the attention to detail. I think Rivian did a really great job with that. Again, you've got a lot of Rivian logos in the vehicle. As you can see in the trim here, you've got Rivian right there. And there's some other Easter eggs that I'll show right here. I really, really love that Adventurous Forever font. And just the amount of times this vehicle says Rivian, it is pretty cool. But I like how it's subtle. I like how it's not super in your face, right? Here, your steering wheel just has the Rivian logo. The hint of yellow just looks very premium. I also love that this is a flat bottom steering wheel. There's just so many things I love about this interior. It is really, truly a top-notch interior. All right, so let's talk about the screens first. So as with most EVs, you try to have the fanciest technology in these newer EVs. So you've got a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster right here. It actually looks relatively small, but it works very, very well. You can't really configure anything, but it has everything you really need, right? You've got your actual adaptive cruise control stuff in the middle, and then I'll show you guys what it actually looks like when you're using the adaptive cruise control. It looks very, very nice, and it does steer for you as expected. It's basically semi-autonomous driving, but you do have to keep your hands on the wheel. And then you've also got the map integration on the left-hand side. None of that is configurable, but I don't think anyone will need to because it does everything it's intended to do. Very, very good system here. Going into the 15.6-inch infotainment system right here, this is a touchscreen as expected, and it is super fast to respond. This thing is impressive, right? The map integration itself is almost as good as like Google Maps, right? This is super fast. You've got traffic data, everything, all that good stuff, right? You can search right here. Very, very easy to use. And Rivian, I never trust the infotainment system of car makers, I feel, because Apple CarPlay is just always better, but this is as close as you can get. With Rivians, you don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, so unfortunately you do have to use the homegrown system, but it is very, very good and impressive. Everything is very neatly organized. You've got this really cool screen here when you go into the vehicle settings, and you can change your drive modes here. You've got a ton of different drive modes. I'll kind of show you when I scroll through them. There's just like a billion different drive modes, and the cool part is Rivian added a lot of those in an over-the-air update, which is so cool in my opinion. So just, you know, you get so many cool graphics when you switch things. Like when you go into sport mode, it's like, hey, we're going to lower the ride height. Look how sporty it is. Like, I don't know. This car just is really one of those jack of all trades things. It's practical, and the technology is very impressive. You've got all of the settings right here. You can open the gear tunnel. And it's so cool that the hood is a power frunk. I think that's super, super cool. That's very rare to see. Got a really nice 360 camera. Looks fantastic. You can change the view, back, bed, everything. It's just really, really great system. You can go into the actual AC area here. A lot of different settings. I will say probably one of the most confusing settings is that it's kind of difficult to tell if an auto is on or off without playing around with it for a little bit. But otherwise, like, you know, this all just works so well. I love it. One thing that I think is really cool is you can open and close these vents right here through here. Pretty cool, neat look, right? And now they open right up. So that's kind of similar to Tesla. Tesla kind of did that as well. You've got ventilated and heated seats and a heated steering wheel as expected. This car pretty much has it all. I love this truck. It is an amazing vehicle, really, really great engineering here. You can see that the backup camera doesn't have the greatest resolution, so I don't love that because everything else in this vehicle is pretty much perfect, but that is probably the one place where I could kind of say that this vehicle could use some improvements. All of the settings are super easy to find, and just look how crisp and easy these graphics are. Like, right, like this is just truly impressive for a new automaker. And I think one of my favorite parts about this infotainment system is that there's really not much you need to configure, right? There's some vehicle settings and things like that, but otherwise it's pretty much plug and play. You just get in here and you can immediately start using it. Very, very simple and intuitive based on, you know, anyone who has a smartphone, right? All right, let's talk about the trim. So this color inside, it's called Black Mountain. That's the color, the black essentially. And you've got dark ash wood. That is the trim. So this really nice, feels really, really good and luxurious. And I mean, I love this interior. These seats are top notch. Honestly, I think probably the best looking seats I've seen ever. I love the Rivian name tag kind of in the seats. And this stitching is gorgeous. I love the stitching. It looks really, really nice. And this yellow hint of, you know, it's such a cool texture. I love it. These seats are very impressive. The yellow in the headrests, all of it is just, these seats are great. I do think they could be more bolstered. I will say, like, they look really nice, but they're actually not that bolstered. And I feel like they're a little wide, I would say. I just love the seat pattern as well. I actually normally don't like weird patterns like this weird, like, you know, circle oval things, but I think it looks really good with these seats, and this cloth texture, this contrast of material is used really, really nicely. Door panels also look phenomenal. In the nighttime, you've got some nice ambient lighting. Unfortunately, you can't change the color of it, so it's not going to be as nice as some of the other vehicles out there, but I do expect Rivian to do that in the future, maybe with an over-the-air update. But yeah, so right now it's just kind of like a white light. I'll show you guys what it looks like here in the dark, but it's not super bright. You can adjust the brightness as expected, but yeah, it's cool because I think it looks really interesting with the wood, and they did a really good job of kind of like blending it together. But yeah, otherwise the actual door panels themselves, I'll show you guys the driver's side. Really nice use of materials. I mean, all of this feels very premium, right? This is all soft touch or leather, and like, this is so cool. And like, these buttons all feel fantastic, really clicky, and the door handles are easy to use. You've got a pocket down here, and yeah, just really great use of storage and materials. And I think that's super impressive to see from a new automaker, right? Tesla didn't really get that right, but I think Rivian has done a fantastic job with it. Okay, let's look at these floor mats. I'm obsessed with these floor mats too. Super unique, right? They are basically like they kind of look like the things you would put on top of a dining table, right? Like kind of like a placemat, but I don't know. I personally, you know, I don't own this car, so I don't know how hard it is or how easy it is to keep these clean, but I really hope they can keep these clean because it looks really cool and it really complements the interior. Last thing I want to call out on the door panels is going to be the sound system. This sound system is great, and really, you know, as someone who loves listening to great music quality, I think that these are some of the best I've heard, especially in a new automaker. These are, I believe, Meridian derived, so essentially Meridian helped Rivian create these, but they don't have any Meridian logos on it. It's all Rivian logos, so essentially a homegrown sound system, and it's very impressive that it sounds this good. Low volumes it sounds great, high volumes it sounds great, and I'm very impressed with the sound system, especially because this is the default. They don't have any sort of like fancier sound system that you can upgrade to for like another $10,000 like most other automakers would do at this price point. All right, and now let's take a look at the second row. So obviously important for a vehicle that kind of values practicality is going to be that second row, and I just love how they didn't skimp out on the seats because they're really one of the best looking parts of this vehicle. You've got this nice Rivian logo right here. The seats also have that great contrast stitching and the cloth inserts. It just looks all so good. I'm obsessed with these seats. You do have, as expected, your pretty typical cup holders slash armrest slash storage unit here. All of it is easy to use. Oh, I didn't even realize this. You have a pass-through into the gear tunnel right here, which is super cool. If you need to grab anything from the gear tunnel. But yeah, these seats are just impressive looking, and you've got that same awesome cloth floor mat there. You do have a very large and high quality screen in the back here as well. You can turn on the lights, turn them off, things like that. You can turn off the system here, and you have heated seats for the rear passengers. You don't have cooled seats in the back, unfortunately, but that's very, very standard. And then you've got some USB-C charging ports, as well as one in the headrest, which is really interesting. I couldn't figure out what this was for. It's like a hook maybe for clothes or something like that, but let me know if you can find another use for it. I kind of thought it was like a phone hanger or something like that, so you could like watch TV or something like that from your phone, but very, very cool look. And I love the look of these seats even from behind. I also love the yellow contrasting. I mean, Rivian just does such a great job showing their signature color throughout the entire vehicle. And this truck, like, look at this. This is so cool. It's like, I don't know. I love, this is a really nice small detail that truly makes this vehicle feel worthy of a six-figure price tag. But the thing is, like, this vehicle isn't even there, right? Like, you can get a Rivian for about $75,000 with about the same interior as this, right? I believe this interior is a free option, so that's really cool. They have a coast color, which is kind of their light gray beige, and that one is gorgeous looking, and I would love to go with that color. But yeah, that's what I would personally get, but this also still looks very, very impressive. You have great legroom and headroom for the rear passengers, and you have this huge pano sunroof. It looks awesome. The vehicle is quite airy feeling, I would say. The B-pillars are a little large, so not going to have the most visibility, I would say, but these windows are huge, and you've got that full glass panel sunroof. All right, let's take the 2023 Rivian R1T on a drive. Let me just preface this by saying that without a doubt, this is my favorite driving vehicle I can't even remember, since maybe the C8 Corvette that I drove. Like, this vehicle drives impeccably well, and it's so impressive from a new automaker, right? Like, they just nailed it. Like, I don't know. I see why people were raving about Rivians, and I see why I see them everywhere now, because they do almost everything correctly. So when you're looking for a new car, I feel like a lot of people are looking for a combination of, you know, an enjoyable ride, good ride quality, quiet interior, upscale feeling, you know, materials and things like that, right? Like, I think, and Rivian just nails every single one of those things. And I just don't remember the last time I was in a car. Like, I mean, maybe the Hyundai Ioniq 6 is the closest thing I can get to where everything just seemed to work really well. And the infotainment system, almost all of it is perfect. Like, for the fact that they don't have Apple CarPlay, and I am a huge Apple CarPlay advocate, like I do not want a car without Apple CarPlay, but this has me thinking differently. Their native navigation is really, really great. I will say it kind of led me astray a few times, and I don't love how they give directions. I feel like some of it is confusing. I definitely had a few wrong turns here in the Chicago area over the last few days because of the Rivian navigation system. It's definitely not up to snuff with Apple CarPlay, or I guess Google Maps. But to be fair, not many things are, right? Like, there's always going to be some feature parity that's missing when you have a homegrown system like this, but it's impressive that it's this close, I think. And I expect that it'll just get better, right? Like, I think as Rivian gets larger, as they produce more vehicles, like the upcoming R2S, which I expect to do very well if they can nail that price point, I guess. It's just so cool. And I think Rivian, you know, they had the perfect timing in terms of getting this electric pickup out before Ford released the F-150 Lightning, and, you know, any other competitors had an electric pickup truck. You've got Rivian, right? So I don't know. I'm just so impressed by this company, and I really, next time I'm looking to buy a car, I am definitely going to be looking pretty hard at Rivians. I feel like Rivians are just doing really, really well, and they just have a huge wait list. That's pretty much all. They are expensive, like, you know, what you would expect, but this interior is certainly deserving of even a six-figure price tag. So while I wouldn't say they're a bargain, I do think it's worth the cost. You've got that cool gear tunnel, you've got a lot of cargo capacity. Even though the bed isn't as long, it kind of is better for the car in terms of driving, right? This truck has a great driving experience, and you've got a low center of gravity thanks to the EV battery and everything like that. You kind of trade off some of the practicality of a larger pickup truck for the fact that you get a better driving vehicle. And I think a lot of people are okay with that, right? Because you've still got a lot of space. You've got that very usable bed, you've got the gear tunnel, you've got some spacious rear seats for your family or friends, and this vehicle just has it all. We're driving down the road, it's, you know, 40 miles per hour, and it's silent, dead silent. You can barely hear anything. The sound isolation is absolutely perfect, and the driving position, the suspension is fantastic, really soaks up any bumps that you would feel. And, you know, I will say it's not as agile as you would expect from like the Model 3, right? I think like some people are gonna, you know, needlessly compare this with Tesla, right? Because they're going to think like a Model S or a Model X. And I think the Model X would be a better comparison because it's larger. Maybe the Cybertruck is actually the best comparison, but you definitely still feel a little bit of body roll, right? Like it's a truck, it's a pickup truck. And you do feel a little bit of body roll when you're going around corners. And even though this vehicle goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, it can feel a little slower than that just because it's such a huge vehicle, right? 7,000 pounds. This is probably the heaviest vehicle I've ever driven. And even though this does rocket you forward, it doesn't feel as nimble as a sports car. And I haven't even talked about the looks. The looks are phenomenal. I think it's got that perfect blend of futuristic, but also a pretty good looking car. I don't think a single person I've ever talked to thinks that this is an unattractive vehicle. It's not like the most mind-blowingly attractive thing. Like, I honestly think the Lucid Air is probably more attractive and futuristic and cool looking, but like, this is a great look. The light bars are instantly recognizable from pretty much anywhere. And I know I've already highlighted this technology a lot, but I do want to say it has all the standard tech you want. It doesn't try to do anything gimmicky. You've got blind spot monitors, you've got that 360 camera, and it all works seamlessly. I think that's an important part because many vehicles these days don't do it seamlessly, right? They have weird gimmicks, or they, I don't know, like Tesla doesn't have a 360 camera, right? Like that's weird, right? Like I want standard things like blind spot monitors, rear cross traffic alerts, and this vehicle does all of that very well, and you don't have to give anything up. And I think that's a really cool part. Many of the newer EVs, you have to give up a lot, and this vehicle just doesn't trade any of that. And I think that's really, really cool. So guys, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk through. Thank you so much for watching my review of the Rivian R1T. This is probably going to be my favorite car of the year, even though it's only been like 2 months into 2024, but I just can't imagine driving a better vehicle than this. But, you know, cars can constantly amaze me. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think about the R1T. Do you think there's any competition that's really going to step up in the future? But yeah, just let me know your thoughts, and thanks for watching. You can subscribe down here, check out some of my other videos up here. I'll see you guys in the next review. Thanks everyone, bye.